King Solomon, celebrated as the most enlightened ruler in history, received divine blessings of extraordinary wisdom, immense wealth, and great authority. Yet, what became of this illustrious monarch? How did a figure so graced by the divine conclude his days in sorrow, remorse, and spiritual decay? Join us as we delve into the lesser-known narrative of Solomon's final day, a day marked by contemplation of his triumphs, his failures, and the dire results of his departure from God. Explore how a monarch who seemingly possessed everything ultimately declared, "Everything is meaningless," and consider the implications of his tale for us today. Stay tuned until the end to grasp the profound teachings from Solomon's existence that continue to influence our lives. What lessons can we draw from his errors? How can we sidestep the pitfalls that misled him? This narrative extends beyond a royal biography. It resonates with anyone who has battled with arrogance, temptation, and the allure of material lures. If you find this account enlightening and provocative, please press the like button, subscribe to our channel, and activate the notification bell to ensure you always stay updated. Your support enables us to continue delivering potent biblical narratives and transformative insights directly to you. We also invite you to share your views. What aspect of Solomon's story resonated most with you? Drop a comment below. Your feedback enriches our community. And remember to share this video with your loved ones, as these enduring teachings are meant to be passed on. Let's explore the final days of King Solomon, uncovering the ultimate truths about his ascent, his decline, and the poignant conclusion to the reign of Israel's wisest king. This compelling tale might just transform how you perceive your own life. Let's begin. King Solomon commenced his rule filled with great potential. As the son of David and Bathsheba, he was divinely selected to succeed his father on Israel's throne. Solomon's early days as king were distinguished by clear signs of divine support and direction. In 1 Kings 3:5, it is noted that God appeared to Solomon in a dream at Gibeon, offering, "Ask what I should give you." Solomon's reply set the stage for his enduring legacy. He chose not to request wealth, longevity, or the defeat of his adversaries. Rather, as recorded in 1 Kings 3:9, Solomon humbly sought, "Give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong, for who is able to govern this vast people of yours?" God was immensely satisfied with Solomon's choice. In 1 Kings 3:10-14, not only did God bestow upon Solomon unmatched wisdom, but he also pledged wealth, honor, and long life, provided that Solomon kept his commands. The application of Solomon's wisdom was immediately tested in a famous episode involving two women, each claiming to be the mother of the same baby, as chronicled in 1 Kings 3:16-28. Solomon's ingenious solution to propose splitting the baby in two revealed the true mother, who preferred to forfeit her claim rather than see her child harmed. This incident highlighted Solomon's divine wisdom, impressing the entire nation. From that pivotal moment, Solomon's renown extended across distant lands. It is documented in 1 Kings 4:29-30 that God endowed Solomon with exceptional wisdom and exceedingly deep insight, and a breadth of understanding as vast as the sand on the seashore. Solomon's intellectual prowess surpassed that of all the wise men of the East and all the scholars of Egypt. He composed 3,000 proverbs and over 1,000 songs, 1 Kings 4:32, which delved into the intricacies of life, nature, governance, and spirituality. The magnitude of Solomon's wisdom drew the attention of the Queen of Sheba, a formidable ruler who embarked on a lengthy journey to challenge Solomon with difficult inquiries. In 1 Kings 10:6-7, she confessed, The reports I heard in my own land about your accomplishments and wisdom were true, but I did not believe them until I arrived and witnessed it with my own eyes. Indeed, the reality surpasses the stories I was told. In wisdom and wealth you have exceeded all I had heard." This meeting underscored that the divine blessings bestowed upon Solomon not only elevated him personally, but also served as a demonstration of God's favor towards Israel. Solomon's crowning accomplishment was the erection of the Temple in Jerusalem, a project his father David had deeply desired to complete. As detailed in the 6th chapter of 1 Kings, Solomon's temple was a masterpiece of its era, constructed using the finest materials such as Lebanese cedar, gold, silver, and bronze. The construction lasted 7 years, and the temple served as Israel's spiritual heart, a sacred site where God's presence resided among his people, as described in 1 Kings 8:10 through 11. Upon its completion, Solomon led a profound dedication ceremony, offering a prayer that celebrated God's majesty and sought his attentiveness to the prayers of the faithful. His moving supplication is captured in 1 Kings 8:23. "Lord, the God of Israel, there is no God like you in heaven above or on earth below, who maintains your covenant of love with those who follow you wholeheartedly." During Solomon's reign, Israel achieved unparalleled levels of wealth, power, and cultural prominence. His kingdom became a hub of prosperity that drew merchants, intellectuals, and monarchs from across the known world. As noted in 1 Kings 10:23 through 24, King Solomon surpassed all other kings globally in riches and wisdom. The entire world sought to consult Solomon to experience the wisdom God had bestowed upon him. Solomon's wealth was extraordinary. He dominated trade routes linking Egypt and Mesopotamia, and his ships brought back exotic goods such as gold, silver, ivory, apes, and peacocks from faraway lands, 1 Kings 10:22. His naval expeditions returned triennially with loads of treasures, underscoring his extensive influence. According to 1 Kings 10:14, Solomon's yearly gold revenue was 666 talents, which is over 25 tons. His throne was a marvel, described in 1 Kings 10:18 through 20 as being crafted from ivory and covered in fine gold, with 6 steps guarded by 12 lions. This throne was a unique emblem of his sovereignty, unrivaled by any other. Solomon's lavishness was evident not just in his throne, but throughout his palace. For instance, in 1 Kings 10:21, it is mentioned that all his drinking vessels were made of gold, and every utensil in the palace of the forest of Lebanon was of pure gold. Silver was so abundant during his reign that it was deemed trivial and unworthy of use, highlighting the extravagant wealth and grandeur of Solomon's era. However, Solomon's vast wealth also brought challenges, notably temptations that veered him off the spiritual path set before him. His prominence led him to forge political alliances with nearby nations through marriages, often with women from groups like the Moabites, Ammonites, Sidonians, and Hittites. These were the very nations from which the Lord had cautioned Israel to refrain from intermarrying, to avoid being led astray to other gods. Despite these divine warnings, Solomon, perhaps taking them too lightly, accumulated a large family of 700 wives and 300 concubines, as detailed in 1 Kings 11:3. These unions were not just strategic, but stood in direct contravention to God's command in Deuteronomy 17:17, which explicitly advised a king against multiple marriages, lest his heart be diverted. As time passed, the impact of Solomon's foreign wives increasingly compromised his spiritual integrity. The scriptures recount in 1 Kings 11:4 that in his later years these wives influenced him to follow other gods, diminishing his commitment to the Lord, unlike his father David's steadfast devotion. Despite the profound wisdom bestowed upon him, Solomon's affections for these women gradually eclipsed his allegiance to the God of Israel. His disobedience extended to erecting high places, elevated sites where he facilitated worship and sacrifices to foreign deities. Among these were altars dedicated to Ashtoreth, the Sidonian goddess of fertility and sensuality, which contradicted the sanctity expected of him by God. Furthermore, he built sites for the worship of Chemosh and Molech, gods of the Moabites and Ammonites, known for abhorrent rites such as child sacrifice, practices that were abominable to the Lord, 1 Kings 11:7-8. Solomon's decisions were not merely acts of embracing cultural diversity, they starkly contravened divine mandates. In Deuteronomy 12:2-3, God explicitly commanded the Israelites to demolish any existing places of worship dedicated to other gods, not to construct new ones. Thus, Solomon's erection of high places constituted a blatant disregard for these divine instructions. The tragic twist in Solomon's narrative lies in the irony that the wisdom he had sought to distinguish right from wrong ultimately succumbed to his ethical lapses. He fell into the snare of idolatry, an issue God had sternly warned against since Moses' time. God's directive in Deuteronomy 7:3-4 was clear. Do not intermarry with them. Do not give your daughters to their sons or take their daughters for your sons, for they will turn your children away from following me to serve other gods. Yet Solomon's heart drifted from these commandments. His wavering fidelity sharply contrasts with his father David, who, despite personal missteps, maintained his devotion to God. God's displeasure with Solomon was evident, having appeared to him twice, once in Gibeon and again in Jerusalem, to reaffirm his covenant and caution him to remain steadfast in his faith. In 1 Kings 9:6-7, God forewarned, "But if you or your descendants turn away from me and fail to keep the commands and statutes I have set before you, and instead serve other gods and worship them, then I will sever Israel from the land that I have granted them." Despite such clear admonitions, Solomon's heart grew hardened, and he persisted in constructing shrines and partaking in idol worship. 1 Kings 11:9-10 details the Lord's displeasure. The Lord grew angry with Solomon because he turned his heart away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had revealed himself to him on 2 occasions. Despite explicit instructions not to pursue other deities, Solomon failed to adhere to God's commands. This incident with Solomon highlights a significant warning. The king, endowed with exceptional wisdom, wealth, and God's favor, let his heart be captivated by foreign deities and the persuasions of those close to him. He exchanged his commitment to God for the approval of his wives and the false gods they adored. The same God who had generously blessed Solomon now imposed a harsh judgment on him. In 1 Kings 11:11, the Lord proclaimed, "Given your disposition and your failure to uphold my covenant and statutes that I have laid out for you, I will surely strip the kingdom from you and bestow it upon one of your subordinates." This declaration marked the start of the decline for the United Kingdom of Israel. Solomon's once magnificent kingdom, established under God's guidance, was now destined for division, turmoil, and discord. Although God's verdict was immediate and firm, it was also mixed with compassion because of David, Solomon's father. The kingdom would not be removed during Solomon's reign. Rather, the full impact of this judgment would be borne by his son, Rehoboam. 1 Kings 11:12-13. The judgment was a direct result of Solomon's disloyalty. Although chosen by God, Solomon's heart had wandered too far astray. In the biblical narrative found in 1 Kings 11:29-31, there's a striking moment when the prophet Ahijah encounters Jeroboam, one of Solomon's administrators, just outside Jerusalem. Seizing his new garment, Ahijah ripped it into 12 sections and instructed Jeroboam, "Here, take 10 of these sections, because thus declares the Lord, the God of Israel. Behold, I will strip the kingdom from Solomon's grasp, and will grant you 10 tribes." On the final day of his life, King Solomon, once regarded as the wisest and richest man on the planet, contemplated in his palace, surrounded by the grandeur that had characterized his rule. His lifetime had been marked by unparalleled successes, wisdom that amazed other nations, immense wealth, and a realm that had reached its apex during his sovereignty. However, his last hours were overshadowed not by the happiness of his past achievements, but by profound feelings of melancholy, defiance, and regret. Solomon's meditations are poignantly recorded in the book of Ecclesiastes, believed to be written in his later years. In Ecclesiastes 1:2, Solomon mourns, "Pointless, pointless," exclaims the teacher, "completely pointless. All is pointless." This declaration reflects the void Solomon sensed as he reflected on a life that had deviated from its intended path. Despite his extraordinary intellect, he had neglected the deity who had bestowed upon him all his blessings. Seated in his palace, King Solomon's thoughts drifted back through the years. He reminisced about the day he consecrated the temple, a magnificent and holy edifice erected to glorify the Lord, as recounted in 1 Kings 8. Solomon had fervently prayed for God's presence to permeate the temple, and indeed, God's glory had manifested as a cloud, signaling his approval of Solomon's efforts. However, at this point in his life, Solomon felt a deep disconnect from those times of fervent devotion. In Ecclesiastes 2:10-11, Solomon contemplates the futility of his endeavors. "I allowed myself every pleasure I saw. I withheld no joy from my heart. I found pleasure in all my work, and this was the fruit of my labor. But when I considered all that my hands had accomplished and the efforts I had poured into them, it all seemed pointless, like chasing after the wind. There was no lasting benefit from all my work under the sun." Solomon's vast wealth had enabled him to indulge in every conceivable luxury. He constructed opulent palaces, cultivated extensive vineyards, gathered vast treasures, and even acquired rare animals from distant lands. He was served by hundreds of servants and entertained by numerous musicians. Yet, in his twilight years, all these achievements seemed empty. He had chased after everything the material world could offer, yet he had drifted away from his spiritual path. The once wise king now recognized that without God, all his accomplishments amounted to nothing. Ecclesiastes 5:1 underscores the emptiness of Solomon's materialistic pursuits. "Whoever adores wealth never finds satisfaction in money. Whoever is enamored with riches never feels they have enough income. This too is pointless." Solomon came to realize, albeit too late, that his desires had steered him away from the divine path. In his youth, Solomon had maintained a profound connection with God, constructing the temple as a testament to God's presence among his followers. However, over the years, his numerous foreign alliances and marriages, along with his concessions to idolatry, had gradually alienated him from the Lord. He had abandoned the God of his early years, who had appeared to him in dreams and endowed him with unmatched wisdom. Solomon's writings reflect the experiences of a man acquainted with both the peaks and troughs of life. In Proverbs 3:5-6, he once advised, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not rely on your own insight. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths." Yet he had neglected to heed his own advice. In his quest for worldly pleasures, he relied on his own judgment and deviated from the righteous path laid out by God. In Ecclesiastes 12:13, Solomon offers a conclusive piece of wisdom that encapsulates his life's insights. "Everything important has been said. This is the essence of wisdom. Fear God and obey his commandments. for this is everyone's true purpose. These final words, penned at the twilight of his life, distill what Solomon ultimately understood. True fulfillment comes only through obedience to God. The last day of Solomon's life served as a somber reflection on the transient nature of worldly achievements. Despite receiving the utmost blessings, he had misused them by turning his back on God. As his life drew to a close, he realized that all his wisdom, wealth, and power meant nothing without a commitment to the Lord. In Ecclesiastes 7:29, Solomon articulates a profound observation. "This I have discovered. God made humans virtuous, yet they have pursued countless schemes." Solomon, once the pinnacle of wisdom, was ensnared by his own contrivances. His final musings act as a caution to those who chase after earthly satisfaction instead of seeking fulfillment in God. The tale of Solomon offers a stark reminder of the significance of fidelity to God. His final day was not one of celebration, but of profound introspection about his life's missteps. Initially a king of great promise, Solomon's latter years were tarnished by remorse. The wisest of all monarchs discovered, through difficult experiences, that wealth, intelligence, or indulgence could never substitute for a heart wholly committed to God. Let Solomon's parting advice resonate with us, emphasizing that our genuine mission is not found in worldly acquisitions, but in revering God and adhering to His commandments. Solomon's enduring legacy teaches us that the most valuable treasures in life aren't those we create for ourselves, but are found in our relationship with our Creator. His last day was filled not with triumphal joy, but with the grief of a life that had wandered from God. May we take heed of his errors. It's not our beginnings, but our endings that truly count. Let's aim to stay loyal to God to the very end. Thank you for watching. If this video has enlightened you, please like, subscribe, and share. Remember, genuine wisdom is achieved by wholeheartedly following God with all your heart, mind, and soul.